that as long as everybody stays in these petty little squabbles, you can't actually get to address the core problems. Like, why does this exist? Not why is it happening to me? And until we actually get past the oppression Olympics, then we don't get to an idea of like, wait a minute, like that is wrong. But like, I guess I'll put a period on it by saying that it's obvious that, like, divide and conquer is nothing new. So then as long as you keep people squabbling and finding ways to find some kind of difference, that means like we can't work together. Like when Black people, it's often said, like when we try to align things in the name of Black power, that people will say, well, we're not a monolith. Well, guess what? White people aren't a monolith by any stretch of the imagination. But like, and I say it over and over again, that religious conservatives and libertarians have very little in common, but they will vote in each other's interest. And so we have to figure out how to find things that are in our interest, like like the idea of getting resources in our community. Well, it's like none of these things will happen if we can't align by some means to then demand what happens and not just ask and just sit back. Like I see many of my students like kind of being framed into feeling like you just sit back and you ask for something and hopefully you'll get it. It's just like, no, you have to demand what you want, go out and get what you want, so that way you can hold on to it. Because if somebody gives it to you, all they have to do is lose interest in you and then it's gone.
It's an excellent point. I'm sorry, Maurice. An excellent point that you made, Daryl, is why is there no follow-up? Because that's kind of, in my opinion, that's kind of the heart of the reason why the whole quote unquote woke movement got attacked. Mm-hmm. When you start letting people define, there's a saying that I can't remember the exact phrase, but to paraphrase, it was basically like, you don't let people name you or define you, mm-hmm. Because they don't know your experience. And so you define yourself, and that comes from knowledge, knowledge of self. But, when we have, it's interesting specifically about the woke movement, that woke was an idea that you're no longer unconscious. Mm-hmm. And that's right. A positive thing, if you're just not paying attention or you're not, aware, woke was a positive thing. And then we allowed the media and we allowed, the right wing conservatives to start making, woke. They think it's woke. And made it all negative, and no one responded. It was almost like, okay, let them go off on their tangent the way they normally do and create their own reality. And now, basically commandeer the media whenever that word is spoken. Same thing for the Black Lives Matter. So, and there's no response. And I think that's a huge problem on our part. Kind of understandable when you look at the fact, like I said, when you have a cultural group that has been through a lot to beat them down continuously, at a certain point, the fight has to come from some source of strength. And that's why I'm constantly touting the whole cultural identity and knowing your history and knowing where you come from, because I think you have to have a base to stand on. But if you don't have that, you're more likely to back down when confronted, even if you know it's information that's untrue. So we have to get to the point where we don't allow these things to be responded to negatively, co-opted, doing all the things that we know shouldn't be happening, because there are ramifications for it in the long run.
Right. And the idea that we've allowed them to win a battle of the lexicon